Duke fans, you know what time it is. You know why we're here. Episode 600, 600 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We are absolutely thrilled that you're joining us. I am Donald One. I am your host for the 600th episode of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Of course, I have Jason Evans with me. Jason, how you doing, sir?
I'm super excited for this, Donald. We should, full disclosure, we're recording 600 before we recorded 599. It's just the nature of when things happen, but we're releasing it. We're releasing it on time. This is 600, even though we're recording it on Thursday, not Sunday.
We were going to get away with it until you spilled the beans, Jason.
Oh,
But I will
sorry,
forgive
man.
you for that. I will forgive you for that. But Jason, as you know, on episode 100, we had Kenny Denard. In episode 200, I'm pretty sure Kenny came back. Episode 300, 400, and 500, Kenny Denard was on this show. And I'm thrilled that on episode 600, we are joined by Kenny Denard. Kenny, how you doing, sir?
Very good.
It's the dog.
The hundreds, man. That's what I'm talking about. Send me to Benjamin's for this show.
Absolutely. And before we talk to you, Kenny, this is 600. We got to go bigger than 500. And now I'm so proud and honored to welcome back to the show, Sam Klein. Sam Klein, it's good to see you, buddy.
Hello, Duke fans, and welcome to episode 600 of the Duke Basketball, whatever we call this show now.
I love it.
It's great to see all of you guys. I'm drinking a really lovely glass of Kentucky bourbon here. One of the only things from Kentucky that any of us is allowed to like. So it's not blue,
bourbon,
it's not red, it's fine. It's fine for us. So
bourbon and Corvettes.
Let's get the and bluegrass music. Let's get this show on the road.
Absolutely. So we have a full crew, just like episodes 100 through 500. We have a full crew for 600. Kenny, first of all, it's good to see you. I know you've been going to some of the games, and we want to start. We haven't talked to you obviously in a while, at least on this show. We want to start with just your general thoughts on this season. What do you've been to a lot of games. How's this Duke team been looking so far? We're starting to peak. It feels like John Shire trend. We're starting to peak right in the middle of February as we get towards March.
I don't really think we're peaking. If you can let me kind of digress, I went to the Arizona game and was pretty impressed with Arizona and not too impressed with us. But this whole world of NIL transfers, the parity now that's pretty much across most conferences. It's different. It's whole different than it used to be. We got players that hang around a year or two, sometimes like Jeremy hangs for 4, or Grayson hung for 4. I mean, back in the day, Grant Hill, you knew he was going to be there for 4. That was the way it was. Anyway, so when you look at each team, they have to find their identity. So the teams at the top, and many of them, and it's not just Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, Carolina, there's all these top 20 teams now that they have to find their way to find out. But usually by this time of year, you're going to find out what you're made of. So I would say on a trend line, we're so spoiled, us Duke pansy fans. We're just, so spoiled. And I take full responsibility for starting that trend. Me and Gene and Jaminski, Spinarco, Bender, John Harrell, we started it, the original in color, after black and white, the 60s when that didn't count.
So you're really taking credit away from, Bubis and
Grote, yeah.
You can't have
and all these guys.
No, they didn't. That's not the Duke that any of us see. The Duke that people are coming to is still the Duke that we started back in '78. And the reason I'm saying that is, it's not only spiritual, it's metaphysical. It's if you look at how many black players started at Duke in the '60s? 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Gene was our first great black player. Now I'm digressing, but I'm trying to show the trend line.
Keep it going, baby. Keep it going.
Of what's happening here. Our team now, we're so spoiled. We're expecting teams but all these teams now in this current era, they have to find their way, and some of them find their way. I mean, I remember when Zion's first game, everybody thought we were going undefeated. I mean, let's think about it. That Kentucky game, everybody said,
I mean, you remember the Kentucky game, right?
Oh my God. By the way, I have that still on my DVR. I watch that game like every 6 months or so. That is a
No,
fun
but
one to
it was
watch.
a great game. But I'm just saying that November to February is a long time, right? And I kept telling all my friends who were texting me all panicky and this, that, and the other. I said, look, let's just see where we are mid-February. Well, we're mid-February and I'm feeling better. But that's not, I don't think we're peaking by any stretch of the imagination. This team has so much talent. Now they're starting to get a feel for where they are on the court. I mean, especially with McAim, which Mr. Sensitive calls Jared McAim, he has really become the super glue of kind of a cohesive squad that, when we need a bucket or we need a play or we need something. And of course, last night, we had great work by our captain. And this is on Thursday, so this was Wednesday night again last night. But anyway, the point is that, Flip started coming around, whatever his mid-season crisis was, girlfriend problems, whatever, I don't know. But the point is, they're starting to play better. So for Duke fans that live on every play throughout the year, I would just say, find a doctor and get some medication, because you're going to blow your head off. It's going to explode if you act like that or think like that. Have patience.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I feel like I'm experiencing the exact same thing, where the friends of mine from school that I talk to about the games seem this year like they are freaking out way more than they do normally, and these people freak out all the time, right? Duke fans listening to this show, you the listener might be one of these people that, Flip has a game where he only shoots 25% from three, and you're like, I can't believe he's even, considered one of the best players in college basketball. Everybody relax, okay? A lot of changes are happening at Duke this year. We're still adjusting to John Shire being the head coach, which doesn't just touch the game plan, it touches everything throughout the program. There are so many things that we, the fans, don't see that that are affected by having a different person at the helm. That is still, like, we're still going through that transition. And then when we look at this year, the thing that makes me pause a little bit on my judgment about the team in mid-January is that there have been a lot of injuries this year, and injuries to key guys. And it feels like every game you turn on the TV and they're like, and tonight Jeremy Roach is day to day. Tyrese Proctor is day to day. Mark Mitchell's, hasn't hit a three in a few games. Oh, all of a sudden now Mark Mitchell's a great 3-point shooter. Like, there have been so many ups and downs for this team. When you zoom out and you look at the record and you look at the strength of schedule and you look at the metrics, guys, Duke is totally fine. Duke's record is not UConn's record. It's not Purdue's record. Duke's not, unless something crazy happens, Duke's not going to be a number one seed in the NCAA tournament this year. But to Donald's original question, the trend is up. And the trend has been up now. We're talking here in like the third week in February. The trend has basically been upwards for the last 4-6 weeks, because guys are coming back from injury, because the team is gelling more, because Jared McCain is assuming this mantle that I think we were excited about him coming into the year. But as I recall, when we were previewing this season, we were not saying like, oh, Jared McCain, far and away the best freshman on the team, definitely going to be in the conversation for every national accolade. He has been that dude for the last month.
You actually didn't talk to me then, because I saw.
Oh, you knew?
Yeah, I knew. I knew
By the way-
because I saw him practice and play at the K Academy this summer, and he reminded me of a very a smaller Adrian Dantley. He's got some really good strong legs. His legs are, you
That's
look at
a great shout.
I
Wow.
love that, man.
a lot of our guys at point guard or small guard or whatever, we've got spindly, the tiny ankles, the small knees. This guy's built like a, what kind of house, poop house is. I mean, he is solid. He's got, and he's quick and he's solid and he's stable and he gets square when he goes to the hole. anyway, I could have told you that. He was the guy that I said after that, seeing him at K Academy play with all the players when they did their scrimmages and stuff for us old farts.
Well,
That's what
I want to point out that in the stats game, when we were talking about who was going to be the fifth starter and how many games they were going to start, I said Jared McCain, because we figured we had 4 returning starters. I said Jared McCain will start every single game this year, and I'm going to be right. Guys, I wanted to play off one thing that Sam was talking about, not, Duke fans being, we meant Duke fans being a little bit spoiled and John Shire just in his second year. A year ago, I mean, do people remember what Duke's record was at this time last year? Last year, through 26 games, Duke was 18-8, 9-6 in the ACC. This year, we're 21-5 and 12-3 in the ACC. I mean, that's way better.
By the way, tied for first place. Like Duke can still win the regular season title, and it's like not even out of the. I mean, by the time you listen to this, I don't know, the Wake Forest game will have happened, and that's going to be a tough one, or it was a tough one for Duke, I'm sure. But
wait, let's record 2 versions. Give an answer where we beat Wake.
Duke, to your point, Jason, Duke is like totally in the driver's seat right now for everything except for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, right? Winning the ACC, getting as high as like if Duke wins the ACC, they're probably a 2 seed. Yep. And when you look, I don't know if we talked about this in the season preview, but when you look ahead at who the top teams are this year, great like opportunity for Duke to be playing in favorable arenas in the NCAA tournament. Like, I am not right now super worried about Duke getting sent to weird tournament locations because all of this is in front of them and they're getting better all the time.
Yeah, but I'm just last thing on that, on those weird locations, they're not any. I mean, there's really not any, because the way they TV schedule it, they're going to put Duke and Carolina and those folks near the first game, first 2 rounds. No matter what region you're in, you're going to be in somewhere around home. That's just the nature of ratings and attendance and money. Okay, that's what the NCAA is all about, scheduling. So the first couple games, doesn't matter what region, it's that next round when you try to get through to the next round, and that the second weekend is really, and all those are in major cities. These guys travel so much as kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they travel AAU, they know each other. None of this travel and all that crap matters anymore. So I don't worry about, I just like to see them do a 2 or a 3 seed, because that way you don't have to see the 1 seed if you're lucky enough to make it, till the regional finals. So if they can do a 2 or 3 seed, if they're a 4 seed, then they're going to probably meet up with the big dog of that region. So that's that until earlier. And who knows? They may get beat. I mean, let's think about all the fun we're going to have with March Madness is right around the corner. So back to you, Jason.
Hey, but imagine Duke playing much better in the post, getting to match up against Purdue, right? Or any of these top teams. I feel like they're maybe Kenny, maybe you disagree, like that they're not peaking necessarily, but they're getting better, and a lot of things seem to be coming together for this team. So
getting better, and I don't think, I mean, they've got so much talent. If this team peaked and stayed on a peak for 2 weeks in March, we've got a real good shot.
And when you look at the season, Kenny, right? Like you've seen it all. Like nothing should be surprising to the Dawg when it comes to college basketball. But when you look at this season, all the stuff that has happened, not just at Duke, right? Like you mentioned, the injuries, the Flip having a little spurt and then, getting better. Tyrese Proctor getting hurt, getting better. Jeremy Roach having an incredible season. Jared McCain going off. Mark Mitchell having, as Jason pointed out, Mark Mitchell just being terrible from behind the arc and then being the best player beyond the arc in college basketball the last month and a half. Like there's a lot that's happening.
Statistics lie.
There's a lot that's happening within Duke, but then when you extrapolate even to college basketball, right? They just released the top 16 seeds, or at least the proverbial top 16 seeds in the tournament over the weekend, and the top 2 overall seeds that they have both lost bad. There's no real great team in college basketball. There's no real team that's like world beaters, and even when you project one as such, they end up losing. What is there anything that has surprised you about this year, given that so much has gone on, not just at Duke, but just across the whole landscape?
Well, I used to have a podcast, and I did a thing with Truth Social. What? Not Truth Social. No, hell no. With oops, it was Truth and something with George Carl had a company. I did a podcast. We
Yeah,
interviewed,
yeah.
and that thing we talked about then. The other host there, who was anyway, we talked about what NIL was going to mean, and it's NIL keeping guys from leaving. Like why would a Baconi, whatever his name is at Carolina. Why would he have stayed if he wasn't going to make more money there than the G League, right? That's why. So let's look at that point. That's one point, the transfer portal. So all this world here has made it actually, I think, better because I sit in my mobile home, motor coach. I sit in my trailer, I sit in my little RV, and I watch 6 games on 2 televisions with multi-views and just love it because like there's a good game or 2 every night, and you would never watch them in the past back in the day. It'd be if it wasn't Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, all the top blue bloods playing and some other good. But now there's good games to watch as a fan, and I love watching these games. And it's because of, but you got to kind of go through the hieroglyphics for Billis or any of the commentators and analysts that are saying, here's Bill Smith who started at BYU, he transferred to Iona, now he's at LSU. That's the only thing that's a little bit different, because people play 2 or 3 different schools, but they're playing 3 or 4 with the COVID year now, 5 or 6, but they're playing a lot more. There's just better games. So I guess that's my commentary on what the whole world looks like. And Duke has its own, infrastructure to have to deal with that. When I was at K Academy, again, I listened to Coach Shire talk to the campers. This is the old farts that come and pay a bunch of money to play. And he was talking about Duke is the only one of 5 schools that hasn't had a player leave for the transfer portal. Duke basketball is only one of 5 schools. That was a shocker. I did not realize that. Okay, so but point being, it's a different world. We're having fun. Everybody can relax, and it's not the ayahuasca relax like Rogers was talking about. It's just we're good. And now's the time. We could lose a couple games between now and the tournament. Doesn't really matter as long as they learn from it, they keep moving forward, and they grow together. As long as they stick together, they got a lot. They're starting to show some belly fire, which was the real criticism most people had for most of December and January.
When you look at the transfer portal, I know you mentioned how kind of volatile, we'll say, it's been over the last couple of years. I think that's why a lot of people are a little bit frustrated at how it's working. College coaches, being the loudest shouters, but probably the ones that need to be the most quiet. But if you look at it in a couple of years, the COVID years are going to be done, right? That wasn't in forever. That's not going to last forever. There are players who are in college now who aren't affected by the COVID year will not have a COVID year. Do you think it settles down after that? Or do you think it's still going to be guys may go to a school, kind of test themselves out for a year before they move on to the school that they end up at for the rest of their career?
I think that it's not as much the COVID year additions, but it's more of budget exhaustion for boosters and their collectives. I think everybody kind of rushed in to help support their school for their collectives. And I think after a few years, people are going, what are we getting for our money? Right? That's what's going to happen, in my personal opinion. I mean, I'm in the business world and I watch trends, and you get a bubble. All this money comes in, and Alabama football, Duke basketball, the top teams. I mean, Duke football, who knows? Who knows what their collective is going to be? Had such high hopes, and then all of a sudden we got this transition. Are they going to be able to raise enough money for the collective? Is Georgia Tech going to be able to, all these teams that maybe got a rush of money for their collectives to help with their retention or attraction for transfers? That business side of the thing will have a show me the money, show me the production for this. And this is not corporate America. This is booster. This isn't where they can just go do an IPO.
And we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen that already with, like, I know the guy who went to Florida, he said he had a $13 million NIL deal, And then he got there, and all of a sudden that deal wasn't there anymore. All of a sudden they're like, "Nah, we're just going to pull it because they went after somebody else." It's gone
Well,
both ways. It seems
it's
like,
not,
yeah.
it's not just that. It's not the commitment to the money. It's the actual dollars that these collectives can raise, which
Mhm.
hasn't really been examined yet because it's still everybody's still spinning their head on what's going on. What's going on? But the point being is, I think when you have the 4 years and you have the collectives, there's still going to be some balancing of power in the bigger schools with the better exposure and program. So, but the point is, I wish I was playing now. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't have had to rely on Manila's for free pizza. That was my big perk at Duke. But anyway, I laugh and I jest. But it was before cable, it was a whole lot different. But I'm very happy. Of course, I would have had to deal with cell phone cameras, and then that would have been the end of me. So.
Kenny, NIL or no NIL, free pizza is free pizza. Everyone loves free pizza. It does not matter how rich you ever get.
Anybody remembers Manila's knows what I'm talking about.
Free pizza is free pizza.
From what I've heard, because I was right after his time, if JJ Redick could survive 4 years at school, I think anyone could have done it in the cell phone era, although he was there in like the grainy cell phone pictures era, not
early.
in the live stream era. Would have taken down a bunch of guys. That's tough.
Yeah. Hey,
But
let's pause right here.
When we come back, I've got some stories of that I want to share with y'all about.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Let's take a quick break here. This is fun. It's episode 600, more with the dog after this. Hey everyone, Jason and Donald here from the Duke Basketball Roundup. And as the NFL season comes to an end, the college hoops and NBA seasons are heating up at MyBookie. Turn your basketball knowledge and skill into wins at MyBookie, where every shot, every spin, and every bet opens the door to a payday.
Hey, whether you're backing your favorite team, I wonder who that could be, Duke, or seeking the thrill of a casino win, MyBookie provides a world-class betting experience. You can get a 50% bonus on your first deposit at mybookie.ag with the promo code DukeMBB, Duke MBB, and you will be able to experience the thrill of backing your favorite team, hundreds of player props, and the allure of MyBookie's casino. Even easier, you can use the link in the show notes here from this episode. It'll take you directly there.
That's right, Jason. And from the latest slots to classic table games, MyBookie offers a one-stop shop from the court to the casino. It has it all. So follow the link in the show notes, or again, use promo code DukeMBB to cash out and win, or let it ride at MyBookie. Bet and play absolutely anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. All right, we are back. We are here. We got Sam Klein on the line. We got Kenny Denard here, and Kenny, I want to shift gears and kind of maybe go a little bit more melancholy for a second and happy trails. As we mentioned on a last podcast, Lefty Dreisell passed away at the age of 92 recently. I know you and Lefty were very close, and just wanted to give you the floor. I know you've known him as a coach, you've known him as a player, as a man. Tell us what your relationship was with Lefty Dreisell and what all he meant to you.
Well, Dean Smith was a very good supporter of mine during my college years and after, and Lefty was probably right behind Dean as far as he was always kind with words. But when we were playing, we loved jousting with each other. We would joke with each other on the court. In fact, one time I remember I was diving for a loose ball over in front of the bench in Cameron at the Maryland place where all the kids were sitting behind the bench with their skull caps on. And I crashed into the bench, and Lefty got out of the way. And I wasn't a great foul shooter. Okay. I wasn't a very good free throw percentage shooter. So when I went down, Max came over and looked at me, and he's going, "Stay down. Stay down. And I would stay down, and they'd put somebody in to shoot my foul shots. Right. And Lefty's looking at the ref, and he's going, "He ain't hurt. I'm looking at him. He's laughing with Max." He was just that great. And then we had a couple of other Maryland experiences. He coached me in the SEC, ACC All-Star game after my senior year. And he was drawing some stuff on the board, and I'm going, what is this hieroglyphics? He goes, oh, that's right. You went to Duke. I said, well, so did you. But we used to laugh. But then we did a lot of fun things. Maryland was a great rival, actually. Very, back. I mean, you probably heard all about the Buck Williams thing, but that's kind of old news. But people don't realize that, 45 years ago, February 3rd, I had the only double-double in the ACC that's ever been done before. Points and steals. So when you have 11 steals in a game and it's still an all-time ACC record 45 years later, you remember that game. And I just, that's just one of the big memories of Lefty over there. And then my junior year, I got hurt. Gene and I ran into each other, and I was out 8 games. And we came back. Maryland had beaten us up their way, but I had a little tactic. I had what is now kind of known as red sparrows. I had these gals who I could send over to the hotel and try to keep the other team up at night. I know that's not probably something that people want to hear about today because of whatever political correctness, but
dude, I love this.
We kept a couple guys, a couple of my girlfriend friends.
Rick Pitino's still coaching college basketball, so I think this is all fair game.
I would disagree heartily on that comment. I haven't seen him coach a lick this year. Anyway,
he's talking a lot. He's certainly talking about coaching a lot. I don't know if he's doing it in practice.
He's basically doing the old Roy thing where he's throwing his players on the bus. I digress. Let me tell this story. So that during the game when we're playing Maryland my junior year, I think it was the second game. They beat us at their place. We're playing them, and I looked over at Ernie Graham and one of the other guys. I won't name his name. And I said, "You look tired, man." He goes, "Oh, Dawg, man, these jigs." I said, "Yeah, I know. They're my friends." I sent them over, and he looked at me with that pop-eye. He goes, "Ah." Anyway, so those were things that you could get away with, and you could get away with a lot more back then because they didn't have 12 HD cameras doing every replay angle possible. Where how many more fouls or we didn't have flagrants back then. We had they'd say get your ass off the floor. That's what. But anyway, so and then finally, looking at all the things that Lefty did for Duke. He was always a big Duke promoter, even though Maryland was his heart and his thing. And he was probably the best. His Hall of Fame speech, if you go to YouTube and go look at Lefty Dreisell's Hall of Fame speech, it may be one of the best Hall of Fame speeches, Naismith Hall of Fame, I've ever listened to. And I went a couple years ago, and they're great. All of them are great, except Huggy Bear was probably the worst I ever saw. I saw that one in person. Huggins from West Virginia. I don't think he'd had a drink, which was his problem. He was too stiff and he couldn't really, but anyway, I tried not to be too opinionated, but missed the left-hander, and he had great 92 years. I was on his Zoom when they had a Zoom for Maryland players and Maryland top people. Holiday, the play-by-play guy, I had a lot of friends at Maryland. But the play-by-play guy invited me to be on that Zoom. So I was able to be on that Zoom. And of course, I had a couple of private messages telling me to go F myself for the Buck Williams. But they didn't say it out loud. And Lefty never mentioned it. That whole thing about nobody even thought that was what it was after that ACC championship game. It was years later until that turned into kind of a thing. There was no talk about it after the game. There was no replay about it. There was no argument about it. We won. Anyway, I digress. But Scott Van Pelt, he still can't get over. So
I have a quick Lefty thing, and then Kenny, I have a question for you that I want to come back to. One sort of quick memory. So when I was in school, I don't remember what the occasion was, but they were honoring Lefty and Cameron. I don't know. He had reached some anniversary or milestone or something, and they had him there, and they brought him out on the court, and he waved to the crowd. And my dad and I were at the game, And so my dad was at Duke in like the mid 70s, and when Lefty obviously was coaching at Maryland. And he said to me after the game, he said, because most of the students at Duke, like in the 2000s, like when I was there, don't even know who he was, right? Because he's long retired by the time I was in school. And so when they do these things and they mention Kenny, or they mention whoever, any of these guys who played at Duke long ago enough that like the current students don't know who they are, they're just like, oh, some guy who played at Duke, and then the students like politely cheer for them. After the game, my dad was like, I can't believe that I was just in Cameron watching Duke students politely cheer for Lefty Dreisell, because when I was in school, we would have been booing him.
Right.
So he's like, it's amazing how time heals all wounds like this. So that was my quick Lefty story that I wanted to share. Kenny, I had a question for you. We were talking earlier about the sort of state of the program. John Shire still kind of finding his way as the head coach. I've said before here that it's hard to say exactly how John Shire is going to be long term as the Duke head coach. None of us know. We have to see it play out. But a lot of the signs, to me at least so far, seem very promising. The players seem very bought in. The recruiting has not lost a step. And this year, certainly the results on the court seem to be getting better than they were last year. You, of course, were at Duke prior to Coach K, and then once Coach K came on board, and then you graduated, and you weren't there when we returned to the Final Four, but you were at Duke at a peak time, and also during that transition. What are you seeing from right now in Shire's second year that either reminds you of the transition that Coach K was going through, or is different from it? And how do you sort of compare those two moments, acknowledging that obviously college basketball in 2024 looks nothing like college basketball in 1981?
Well, first of all, I'll say that back on that podcast with George Karl I did a year before Coach K even announced he was going to retire and then named John, I told George, and he said, when Coach K finally retires, who's going to be? I said, John Shire. I just knew he's the guy, and he is the guy. He is built for this. He is Duke through and through. He's beyond what I would say. He knows all the. I mean, you talk about why all the older guys. A couple guys have hung on too long. The guy in Miami, I think, he's a nice guy, probably a good coach, but all of this is a young man's coaching game. Look at the pros, look at the NFL, the young guy, and John is perfectly suited for his experience. He's got the CV for all the basketball. He's got the CV for the coaching, but more importantly, he's put great coaches around him that are perfect for this NIL transfer era. That's so different. That's what ran out, the older guys. I mean, we saw the frustration building with Coach K and Roy and all, Jay Wright. All those guys were going, this isn't what I signed up for. So they're gone. The next generation is going to be these titans of industry that can manage more than just the during the season. It's the 24/7, 365 embodiment of college basketball. And I think John is built perfectly for that.
When we look at moving forward, right, you mentioned the recruiting, Sam, and of course, next year we have one of the better recruiting classes of all time that's scheduled to come to Duke, led by Cooper Flagg. We're still actively recruiting as part of that class. Maluak is still out there, but you remember the Brotherhood. You've been around. You've seen classes come in. You've seen where some have been successful. You've seen where some have not. If you had the ear of that incoming class, what do you think is the one thing that resonates about being a part of the Brotherhood? What do you think is one of the important things that, no matter whether the times change, that one true thing remains constant?
Well, we have a bullshit bingo card that I made that has all the squares that have like going. He took that ball downhill, or there's all these types of new colloquialisms. out in space in football. You know, they threw it. He's out running in space. Uh, Everybody's got to be the best version of themselves. I mean, how much, it's kind of like we used to do this in meetings for, having said that, or at the end of the day, or all these little things and then somebody would yell bingo because their card filled up with all this bullshit. Okay. So I'm not going to come and say to a player some bullshit. What I would tell them is, hey, dude, time flies when you're having fun. Have fun. Okay. Just make sure you have fun. If you start to get bent, you start to worry, and you start, you got to have fun. And once you have fun, then you win. Okay. All the guys that are winning are having fun, if you notice that. The guys that aren't winning are not having fun. So if you have fun, then you're probably going to be winning. And you got to figure out how to have fun. I'd never buy into the high school ratings hype. I didn't know. I'd never seen Zion play. I never watched any YouTubes until I saw him play in New York against Texas Tech. That game. I'd seen the game on TV, but the one with Kentucky. But that was like, what? What are you going to do? I don't believe any of these guys. Once they get there, they've got to prove themselves to fit on a team. You're an individual of glory, crazy, stats and YouTube and Instagram today. I mean, you got to come in and show that you can be part of a team. You may be the best player on the team. You may have to be not the best player on the team. You don't. So I would just say, have fun, be your very best, and figure out how to make this team. Figure out how to make this team better.
Anything
I feel like the entire second half of the podcast, I've done nothing but laugh. Having Sam and Kenny together, man, guys, this has just been
Lefty. Like, one thing, I posted this when I had this picture of me and Lefty about 20 years ago in Cameron, and he said when Coach K and Gene Banks and I went over to Greensboro my senior year before the season for media day, and we only had 8 teams in the league back then, so all of us got lots of attention, which we all loved. But I walked by over there where the Maryland area was, and Lefty standing up with his hands up in the air going, I ain't stupid. I just talk stupid. And we just kept walking by laughing. That was then,
good times, man.
Amazing. Look, Kenny, we could go for like 6 more hours on this, but
We got to save some stuff for number 700.
Yeah, well, 700 is going to be very soon because the way we're doing pods, it's probably going to be like this fall.
Let's tape it next week. You can save it.
I'm not worried about content for these because I feel like every time we do this, Kenny shows up and is like, I got a bunch of new stories I never told you guys before.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like a Bill Walton, Pac-12 After Dark telecast. But
it's close.
But it's yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know, and I wouldn't judge you if it was the case. I assume there's like less LSD happening on this program than there is in the average Bill Walton telecast, but still great content. So everyone likes it.
I will say, Kenny, last thing before we let you go. I know you're probably gonna. I don't know. Are you going back for the UNC game? I assume.
I'll be back for that.
Okay. Now, everyone who's seen you in Cameron or any other game, we know you got the fit going. You always have the outfit of all outfits. Can you give us a sneak peek or a sneak preview of what you go? What's going to be the one? I know you probably got the GTHC GTH gear going, but what's going to be the fit for the UNC game?
The last game, the last home and home, the Boston College and Wake games, I had a Robert Graham, a kind of a blue, Duke blue, animal stripe, like a
it's kind of a zebra sort of thing happening. Kenny and I hung out a little bit at those games,
like a Zubas.
And of course won, so that has chances. And then of course the green, yellow, neon camo is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Because and then during the second half, about 8 minutes into the second half, I put the hoodie on as the rally hoodie to kind of get these guys. I'm sitting 4 rows behind the bench. If they can't look up and see that there is light at the end of the tunnel with the rally hood on, So that worked out okay. So I don't know. It's always a game day decision, but I've got this new Ralph Lauren polo camo that's kind of, but it's a little too camouflage. It's actually camouflage, whereas the
Right.
green
You like
on-
it when it's outrageous, man. You like it to stand
Yeah.
out.
I'm not worried about you blending in, Kenny. You don't. You do a very bad
You're
job of
6'8".
blending in. Yeah, you're 6'8" and you wear the loudest outfit in the arena, kind of no matter what. So
Well, it's thanks to my wife. She says she likes to see me on TV and have a laugh.
you're a tough man to hide.
Likes to laugh at me.
Oh God, this is special.
Well,
I love it.
Well, hopefully we will see you soon, whether it's at the UNC game or during the tournament or elsewhere in life. But Kenny Denard, the dog, always a pleasure to see you and talk to you on episode 600. Sam Klein, good that you're back. I think he's frozen at this point, but
I think here. Am I here?
he's still here.
Am I not
He's still here.
My video, I think, is frozen, but my voice remains.
Your voice remains. We always love having you. You know this is your home, so stop by anytime. You still have stuff here. We'll be back soon to talk about some stats game, hopefully in late or mid-April when we're done with the season. But this is episode 600. Again, thank you so much to everyone out there who has been a part of this for 600 of these things. We started almost 10 years ago, or a little over 10 years ago at this point. And we are now here at episode 600. We have some more episodes coming, ladies and gentlemen. We will get to 700 and beyond. We have a tournament that awaits. We have games that await. This is the fun time of college basketball. This is the fun time of the year. We're getting close to that magical month of March. Stay tuned with us, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of Denard. If you have questions for us, we will save it for the next time he's on the show in 100 episodes, which, again, could be in like 3 weeks. We don't know. But until then, Jason Evans, for Sam Klein, for the dog, Kenny Denard, I am down the line. This is episode 600 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, and now it is time for the Duke Band to play us out and take us home.
Guys, thank you. Fun stuff. Always.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
figured y'all liked the Red Sparrow thing.
That's good.
That was
I've never said that publicly before.
you.
Look,
You gotta you somehow put that in the show notes, Jason. Like, hey,
Plus a
somehow.
Kenny Denard story that's never been told before.
Yeah, like an
Like somehow.
unreleased. Yeah,
Try to have one at least for you guys. Let me make sure that when I hit the mute button and my lips are still moving, just give thumbs up if I'm mute. Am I mute?
Not
I'm
yet.
Mute. Okay, I'm mute.
Not yet.
Am I mute? No
Nope.
mute. I am mute.
no, you're
I'm
still
not
talking.
mute.
You're fucking
Oh,
with us, man.
hold
You know
on.
you
Stop.
are.
Hold on. Stand by.
You're not as bad at technology. We know that you're not as bad at technology as your age.
Oh, that's what I have to. Oh, I know what I did.
You know, the truth is, I can mute
Stand
you
by.
manually. Wait. You're now muted.
can't hear you.
I did it. I did it.